Peace, family. Can y'all hear me? Microphone check. 1 2 1 2. Check check test test. Bear with me. We're actually doing a little bit of testing as we go along this process, this journey. Let me see if me check check. Hold up. Bear with me. Let's see if there's any trolls here. Oops. Check check. 1 2. Check check check. Let me see here. Working on things in order. Check, check. 1 2. Test, test. Check, check, check. 1 2 1 2. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Okay. Starting to sound a little bit louder. So this is a bit of a test run. Y'all had to bear with me, family. Just wanted to kind of take a few minutes out of the day today to share some thoughts, introduce myself. You are now tuned into the F.L.O. Xpress. And what we are at least attempting to do today is kind of getting things started off. For some of you, I may have spoken to that I had plans on doing this for quite some time. I got started a while back and kind of had to put things on pause. Life has a way of happening, especially when you're finding your footing in, certain areas of your life. But we're here, and that's what matters. And today, what I wanted to share with y'all is a little bit about my journey in terms of who I am as a creative, as a hip hop artist, a self-produced hip hop artist, producer, as well as an engineer, and how things kind of got started. Because some of you may know my name, not really my story or how things kind of started, but for anyone who's listening and paying attention, who may be catching this later or now, there's an origin to how things kind of got started, and I kind of delve into that a little bit, and I'm gonna continue to share more pieces and bits and parts of the story that culminate to where we are and where we plan on being in the weeks, the months, the years that lie ahead in this journey of creation. Mainly music, but it's not just limited to that. There's also media, there's also other various forms of entertainment, that we plan on expanding and growing into, connecting with folks that have that like mind, that like frequency, that vision of using entertainment, using music and media, these forms of creative expression to entertain, provide, of course, but also to stimulate the mind and to also have a message that uplifts the frequency, raises your frequency, and brings you closer to source, brings you closer to the Most High, being divine, and knowing and staying in touch with your purpose. So that's part of the purpose, for part of the motivation for me to do what I do. So just to kind of set things off again, my name is the F.L.O. Xpress. So to break that down, the F.L.O. is an acronym for Factual Libations Overstood. It was a name that was given to me from my close partner in rhyme. Y'all might know him as Rough Mike of the well-known, internationally known, renowned hip-hop group Precise Science. Um, he was the front man, and he was a very impactful brother as far as his music and his word. He had a way of really giving you a potent combination of high vibrational hip hop with a message, with wisdom, with knowledge, conversation pieces in the bars, but he was still very a highly skilled lyricist that, was very much in tune with the culture creatively and then just, informationally wise. He just always had his ear to the street, had his pulse on the game in a sense. And I soaked up a lot of wisdom from a lot of game, a lot of wisdom from having my many years of being able to work with him, as an artist, collaborating as a producer. We started a company together, a production company together, New Analog Productions, that we've been going 15 years strong. And, he passed away, and that motivated me. I say to him, his legacy will always be remembered and survived, at least to some significant degree, by my passion and my motivation and my gift of musical expression. So oftentimes what you hear from him is a reflection of who I am and where I come from as an artist. And he was one of the biggest supporters in terms of really pushing me and motivating me and also giving me opportunity for me to be able to open up my gift, open up my mouth, my pen, my pad, my MPC. I don't have an MPC, but I have a MIDI controller. Not quite as fancy as an MP, but it still gets the job done. You listen to some of my beats, especially now, I gets busy. But and that's part of the process, part of the journey that, still has a long ways to go as far as getting better or more expansive with the sound. I know today's artists, they have a certain ear for the type of sounds that they want to use to kind of be their platform for their songs, their music. So there's still ways that I can expand my repertoire as a producer to stay up to par with the more current or up to date styles of production that's more popular, more trendy. And not just to say that I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses or say my last name is a Jones. They try and keep up with us. But in terms of just being able to expand the repertoire to be able to work with different types of artists, and that's something that that's coming in the future as well. But just to encourage a brother to get out there and get started. As they say that you don't have to be great in order to get started, but you do have to get started in order to be great. And, thanks to that brother, I was very much motivated to get started and start that journey to greatness. And that's something that, I've kind of pledged secretly to myself, maybe not so secretly, but I pledged to myself that I'm never going to give up on that. As difficult as life can get, and the obstacles and the setbacks and the challenges that we face in our lives, whatever it is that we set out to do, whatever we feel our calling or our purpose is in life, once we commit to that, there are certain to be obstacles and challenges along the way that will test our will, that will test our determination. Like, are you really serious or just, kitty footing around? You know what I'm saying? So, and if you continue to persevere, just keep going, life has a way of rewarding you for just staying in the race. Doesn't matter how fast you're going, you have to slow down and take breaks sometimes. But it's just about staying in the race sometimes, and then you get that reward. You overcome that obstacle, and you get that motivation to keep going. So, you know, philosophies aside, you know, um, being a part of the group Precise Science was a major part of my journey. That's really where I started to really take that that desire to create musically very seriously. I was already in the process of learning how to make beats, and I had already been writing rhymes for at the time like 5 years, well over 5 years, close to 10, somewhere between 5 to 10 years in the process since I wrote. I would say it was like about 7 years, 6, 7 years after I wrote my first rhyme, my first 16. And that's interesting because even then, my brother, Haru, Mary Tef, uh, the other front man of Precise Science, he was my very first motivation, inspiration to write. He actually gave me an assignment at 13 years old, and he said, "I want you to write a song for a female, as if you were a female rapper at 13 years old. What would you say? How would you want it to sound?" And that was like the first song I ever wrote, first 16s I ever wrote, and that was Haru, the spoken word artist of Precise Science, and my biological brother. So shout out to Rough Mike, Ashe to him, and he rest in peace. Salute to God, and shout out to my older brother Haru Mary Tuff. Much big ups to him because those two again were the biggest influences. And just to kind of expound on my brother's influence, my Haru's influence, my biological brother, because Rough Mike is very much a brother to me as well. Just only one of them, we actually came out the same womb, but both my brothers were very instrumental in my development as an artist, and also instrumental in my development as a producer too, because that was a sounding board for me to bounce many of my ideas off of as I was really kind of cutting my teeth on the production side of the game. So before I even got to writing rhymes, you know, I would just kind of have my ear glued to the radio listening to, well, when I was living in Baltimore, it was 92Q. And then when I was living in Connecticut, it was Hot 97 before Power 105 became a player in the major radio broadcast game. And then, of course, later on them. But just listening to Missy, Timbaland, Aaliyah, listening to Busta Rhymes, listening to early Jay-Z, Cannabis, DMX. Um, who else was kind of like popping at the time? I remember hearing the first couple joints of Cameron first album. I remember some of those memories, and just listening to the radio and just kind of just soaking in and downloading the energy and the vibration and just kind of growing interest. And then it kind of even goes before then. Like my introduction to hip hop was in my early years. I was in single digits, younger than my daughter's age now. She's about to be 13. I must have been like 6, 7, 8, somewhere around that age when I was first chilling in the basement with Haru, with Rough Mike, before they even was Precise Science, back when my brother was like still in college or just recently removed from his college days. And there was a PlayStation. There was some party goods going around. No, I didn't partake. I was, just in the environment. But yeah, it was Madden and NBA Live, and you know, something in the air, and it was just good music. KRS-One, J. Rue the Damager, Wu Tang, Nas, uh, just a Liquid Swords, just a bunch of joints that listening to them later on in life, I was like, I remember hearing those tracks when I was real young, and just soaking up the energy, not even really noticing my subconscious was downloading that frequency, that hip hop Gangstar. That was when I really started remembering what I was hearing on coming through the playlist. So there was the radio, what they was playing, and then there was also what my dudes had on rotation that wasn't on the radio. So I was already kind of getting both sides as far as the underground and the mainstream side of hip hop at an early age, in the mid 90s, late 90s, not knowing what the heck it was going to become, as I got older and as it got older. But it certainly had a strong hold on the airwaves at the time, and me just being able to catch it during those times and catch some of it, that was truly something special. But So it that just being as young age, just learning that there was even a thing called rap, and then as I got older, started buying CDs for my sister for her birthday. Lauryn Hill, DMX. Um, I was buying the bootlegs off of the first Rough Riders joint, Eminem when he first came out, and just started listening. And then once Haru found out that I was like really like actively listening to rap music, he was like, "All right, I'm gonna take you to Sam Goody one day." He didn't necessarily say it like that, but he took me to Sam Goody one day. We were just chilling, hanging out. We went to Sam Goody. It was like Tower Records, one of them CD stores, when that was a thing. And he said, "All right, so I'm getting." He got a couple joints, and then he said, "I'm gonna buy you two tapes. One of them you get to pick, and then the other one I'm picking for you." So the one he picked for me was Most Def and Quali or Black Star. Classic, right? And then the one I picked, because I was more so gravitated towards what was going on the radio. And I think he probably kind of winced a little bit when I plucked it off the shelf, but I went and grabbed Ja Rule's first album, Veni Vidi Vici. So I was like, now, if you're a Ja Rule fan, it's a classic. If you're not a Ja Rule fan, you're probably not too happy on it, too strong on it. I was like, it's cool. It was a solid debut offering. There were definitely some very some classic moments, just some really strong offerings on that album. I think it was a solid offering for, especially for a young artist, you know. But it was a popular pick, you know what I mean? Like everybody, it was one of the hottest albums. He went platinum, da 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 da. So I was like, he had a joint on the radio. So I was like, I want to listen to it. I enjoyed it. I feel like it wasn't the best pick I could have made out of all the artists that came out in 98, 99, but not too disappointed in it either. I actually like that album. But of course, most definitely quality of Black Star, it's like a whole nother zip code, whole nother time zone compared to the flavor from Ja Rule's first album. And it kind of gave me a reference as far as the difference between the two, subgenres, or what I mean, underground hip hop and then more mainstream friendly rap. But I appreciate it because it kind of gave me both, and I have a very balanced perspective on hip hop music, to this day, that kind of goes in line with that particular day that that he took me to the store, and I picked out those two albums, or he bought me those two albums. So of course I listened to both of them very much, and I enjoyed both of them very much. Um, Fortunately for my rhyming, much to my brother's satisfaction, when I started rhyming, I gravitated more towards the Most Def Quali side of things because I liked how they had a message, and I just think that that album was a more consistent classic, flow throughout. You could just play that, put that in, play it from start to finish, and enjoy the whole joint. Ja Rule, there's a few joints I'm skipping after a while because I'm just like, it's okay, it's cool, but it ain't all that. But one of the albums I remember him picking up was Gangstar's Full Clip. So it wasn't a greatest hits, but it was just kind of like a review of what they did in that 10-year span in their career. And that probably was the one that I put the other two to the side. Like, all right, that's cool. This Gangstar joint is slapping the mess out of all of y'all because Premier with the beats. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. So I guess listening to DJ Premier was one of the things that really sparked my producer mind because I used to just hear the way he would just use that MPC like a drum, like a joystick, and chopping up the samples, laying those thumping drums on top, and he just had a sound that was like, because even a lot of the artists I was listening to at the time that was like popular were also still going to Premiere for beats. Jay-Z, Nas, Biggie, before he passed away. J. Rue the Damager was another album I listened to later on. And I was like, wow, Premier did the whole album. It's amazing. KRS-One, like he was the go-to producer. Before Swiss really popped up, before Timbaland really blew up, like early mid-90s, it was like DJ Premier and Pete Rock. And then Swiss and then Timbaland and then other producers started to step up and, Neptunes, Kanye, Just Blaze in the early 2000s, and really took it to another level as far as the hip hop production. That's cool. I think I had somebody just tune in for real quick. I appreciate that. Even if you clicked on it by accident, appreciate it. I will have this up for later. But I just appreciated just really getting into that part of the journey. It was just fascinating for me. So listening to DJ Premier's instrumentals, and then it was like the beats had me locked in, and then after a while, I'm listening to Guru's rhymes, and of course his baritone voice, his agile lyrical flow, and his substance, because he always had a message involved in a lot of his songs, the concepts, the titles. I was just drawn into it like a moth to a flame, listening to Gangstar, and I kind of got a nice little glimpse into their whole catalog from that full clip 10 years of Gangstar joint. That was real hard. I like how they did that, because it was great for people for those who have been following them over the years. They were like, yeah, y'all just now catching on, y'all late. But for new heads like myself, yeah, the ones who just catching on, you got a nice little glimpse into their catalog and how they had really been kind of like changing the game for a long time with their groundbreaking sound, and just their relentless desire to win, and just the dynamic duo that they were. I feel like Batman and Robin was like, that's not fair, but Batman and Superman kind of like teaming up to form a hip hop duo. That's what they were. And that just really their whole flavor, it kind of gave you a little bit of that street shit, but it was also like a message, and it was dope beats. And I was like, that to me presented a model that, as I would eventually venture into creating, that's like a model that I chose to, that was a template I chose to model myself after, my style after, a little bit, before I started coming across more other artists and picking up from their style and their technique, and seeing what I may wanted to pick up on as far as what I wanted to do with my style of creation. But Gangstar being like one of the first examples that I really gravitated towards, just listening wise, and then kind of model myself after creation wise. So pardon me if there's an issue with the connection here. I'm going to wrap things up shortly. I just kind of wanted to get things started with sharing the origins of my journey, the early years. I was thinking about maybe doing a series, but maybe somewhere way down the line. But I'm going to tell a little bit about my story now. So there was that, and then that just kind of blowing things out of the water. Listening to Gangstar was like, that's what I really gravitated towards, and I really wanted to learn more about them, and things like that. So after listening to them, not too long after that, that's when I started to really try my hand at writing, because like writing in school, elementary school, junior high school, like anytime there was a creative writing assignment, heads would always read my work and be like, dang, brother, like you got a gift. So when I it wasn't anything I took serious. I honestly didn't take my creative writing seriously at all in any way, shape, or form until I started writing rhymes, because doing stuff for school was like, I'm just doing this to get the assignment done, get a good grade, keep it moving. But once I started to really delve into writing rap verses, it was like, oh, y'all really feel like I got something. It wasn't just the teacher saying that, I have dope writing skills. When my family members and relatives and guests that they would bring over, I'd let them read or hear me perform something, read something to them. I would go to school sometimes and just be bored writing raps. And some of my classmates, some of my buddies were like, what you doing over there? And I was like, yeah, I'm just writing some stuff, just da-da-da-da-da. They want me to read it to them. Hey, I like what you got going on over there. So I'd just be like, writing stuff at the table, beat banging on the table, beatboxing. I'm reading some raps and stuff like that. So, that's, at my, early adolescent years, that's kind of like where things started to pick up a little bit. The ball started rolling at that point. and it would later start to pick up even more momentum when my cousin passed away at 15 years old from a car accident. And this was like a few months after we all got together on the bunk beds, just chilling. And we from time to time like to do our little freestyles and ciphers and just having fun. Somebody beatbox, somebody rap, and then we all take turns. But for some particular reason, I remember my cousins Chris and Melody. Chris, may you rest in peace, forever Buckethead. My cousin Melody, and then my sister Michaela and we was just chilling on the bunk beds. I don't know whose idea it was to say, all right, we're gonna write something this time and share. And I guess they knew that something was gonna happen that night because after we all spit our verses, I went last. I had borrowed a couple lines from one of a Most Def verse just to help finish up because we was like on a timer. I was like, all right, well, I want to write something. I'm almost done. Da 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 da. And once I finished spitting my joints, they was like, whoa, you need to take this more serious. I especially remember my cousin Chris. He said, you need to take this more serious. You definitely need to keep going with it. You got something going. So I was like, bet. I would listen. I would study. I didn't just listen to rap, just to enjoy it anymore as a consumer. I'm listening to study like, okay, what are these brothers doing? Like Mos Def, especially. What a reference point creatively as an artist. The way he used to rip beats up. Great reference. Most Def. I would listen to the Most Def Quali tape, listen to Gangstar, Pharaoh Monch, Jay Z. I remember just a few of those. Breadman, listening to, which is my favorite MC of all time. My favorite. I'm not saying he got to be the GOAT. I'm just saying he's my all-time favorite. That's my number one out of my top five. Reggie Noble. But listening to artists like them really gave me a brilliant reference point creatively and just something to kind of model my skill set after as a hip hop lyricist, as an artist. And I would just kind of like pick up little tidbits from their technique and just use those, apply those punchlines, multi-syllable rhymes, similes, metaphors, and the like, and just really, grow my understanding, educate myself, and apply that, and so on and so forth. And then shortly after that, like when I was like my early high school years, I actually would use my mother's dial-up connection while she was still out at work and log into these websites, these forums that did online rap battles. So they had little forums where you put together your little raps and you challenge somebody to a battle. They write theirs, type theirs up, submit. You type yours up, submit, and then people would vote on it, leave feedback on it. And that's where I really learned how to use my words like weapons and really pick up my skill set. Use multi-syllables and punchlines and like battle rap. And this was around the time Nas dropped Ether. The Nas Jay-Z battle was going on. 8 Mile had dropped. So it's like that whole battle rap was really starting to become a big thing in hip hop. And, I was in that. I participated in live battles too. Not a whole lot, but a couple tournaments here and there, whatever was available, just to kind of get out there, go to open mics, stuff like that, to perform, get on live, kind of get it like, hone my skills in a live setting, learn some basics about stage presence and rocking the mic and things like that. So, and really growing a confidence performing on stage. So there was talent shows, open mics, battles, live. And then I would do stuff also on the internet as well, just to kind of sharpen up my skill set and build my confidence up. Ironically, I was also going to church a lot too and writing a lot of raps for like church stuff too, which is interesting. But they encouraged me as well. They embraced that. They could have definitely said, hip hop is secular music. It's not what we're looking for at the church here. But, I definitely was a part of a very non-traditional church family. Shout out to Bishop Derek L. Calhoun, New Vision Ministries in Bridgeport, Connecticut, because my church family was very much a big part of my spiritual journey as well as my development. and they didn't. I was surprised because I thought they was like, no, we want to encourage our young brothers and sisters to walk into their truth, into their styles of expression. And I think that's something I really took to, and probably still take to this day, like how I did, just because they encouraged that. That's big. So shout out to them. And so so it's like, okay, so I'm performing, I'm doing a little battles, I'm writing, I'm doing school assignments, working my poetry in, just kind of, creating and expressing myself in any and each and every way that I could. And mind you, my cousin had passed away, you know, in my early teenage years as well. So this was also very much a shout out to him, a big up to him, and my outlet kind of, lived through the pain and the grief of losing him as well. He was gone way too soon. The beloved jewel of West Stanford, Connecticut, Christopher Burkett, Buckethead. So him telling me, I really got a grip, I got a thing with this rap thing was like a big thing at the time because folks could have definitely said, man, get out of here with that mess. And I might have not ever been encouraged to keep going, some 20 odd years from the first 16 bar verse that I ever wrote. I'm still going strong. I got projects, mixtapes. I've had a chance to, stand next to legends and spit, perform, and share some of my music and get their feedback, get their input, get their encouragement on things. So, you know, and like I said, in so many ways, we're really just getting started. The journey hasn't just started, but as far as the progression to another level, things are moving. I still like they're progressing and moving in a direction that's going to really take things off to another level soon. So, so after I started writing raps for the first time, really having a deeper understanding and appreciation for the art form and the culture, listening to the roots, my collection was getting more diverse as far as different artists, to reference off of, as far as getting myself on different platforms to hone my skills and building my confidence level and get more encouragement and feedback. And then once I finished high school, that's when, shortly after that, I had the opportunity to see what my brother was doing as a spoken word artist, you know, leading up to, oh, I thought that was my phone, leading up to, him being a solo spoken word artist and seeing him kind of doing his thing and just having you know, a growing interest in his creative expression, being a spoken word artist and also a videographer, developed interest for that. He would kind of take me along with some of the shows he and his brother Rough Mike, his friend Rough Mike, were doing. They formed a group. It was just something that was based off a demand. Actually, it was like a favor. It was a brother by the name of Good Baba, scholar, master teacher by the name of Kidi Awadu, who was running his own independent media broadcast. Like really, when people were just getting into like the internet streaming and broadcasting thing, he had his own radio show called LIB Radio, and he was putting together like a project of different artists around the country, around the globe, that had like higher consciousness, musical creative expression. And he was like, Rough Mike was doing his thing as a solo hip hop artist. My brother, Freedom Writer, that's his creative name, his stage name, was doing his thing as a spoken word artist. So I guess when he caught word of them being in cohorts, he's like, well, listen, I'm doing this project. I want y'all brothers to, you know, work on a couple songs together. Rough Mike also being a producer as well. They had got together, made a couple songs, contributed to the project, and the feedback they got was so crazy. It was like, well, two songs ain't enough, because I remember when they first recorded the joints and put them together, and homie came back from out of state to show before I finished high school. Came back out of state, played the joints for me. I was like, yo, I like what y'all doing, and of course there was a lot of people that also agreed. So they was like, well, since the feedback was so crazy, it was like, well, why don't we get together and work on a whole full length project together? And they still hadn't formed the group name yet. They was still Rough Mike and Freedom Writer. The actual name of the project was supposed to be called Precise Science. The name of the group ended up becoming Precise Science because folks looked at the album cover and was like, well, Precise Science. It just stuck. So that's what ended up becoming their group name. But like they got a lot of co-signage from the master teachers and the elders and in the conscious community and in the African centered community. So there was that. There was a demand for their sound because it was unlike anything else because it was real deep in the knowledge, but the beats was banging, the lyrics was flowing. They just slap you in the face with bars over these dope beats. But again, it's bringing you back to culture, bringing you back to your ancestral DNA. So it's really, you listen to the songs, as was said, you listen to the songs and uh, you felt smarter, listening to their music. So it's like there was a lethal combination they had going on. So shortly after I finished high school, I had the opportunity to see them perform live. One of their first shows they ever did together was at this festival in Richmond called the Happily Natural Day. And the brother that organizes that, brother Manifest, brother Duran Chavis, if I say that correctly. Pardon me if the brother can hear me and I said it wrong. Pardon me. But he organized that. Started out in Richmond. They still have it in Richmond, but they also do it down in Atlanta as well every year, every summer. And one of the first ones they did was in Richmond. They came out. This is such a wonderful weekend, such a wonderful power pack strong end because it was like 3 days. They had all kind of presentations, had a marketplace going on. And I actually came down there to help with the filming as well, because my brother was also contracted. Heru was contracted to film some of the presentations going on. And when I tell you, I said Power Pack, Sister Malika Cooper, who I know is she's a big name in the natural hair care industry, also from Baltimore, Tubman City stand up. She had a presentation. I got the pleasure of filming her. And this was like one of the first times me sitting and standing behind a recording camera, camcorder, just learning how to film. But I was filming her presentation, and then he was filming some stuff downstairs. And of course, the stuff they were doing downstairs, of course, that's where the stage was. So artists were performing. They did their joint. Oh man, such a wonderful time. I think I caught some of their performance, but I also had to be upstairs as well, so I couldn't catch the whole thing. But that strong, and also Dr. Sanu, Baba Sanu, y'all might know him as Dr. Phil Valentine. He had a presentation. Baba Nana Kuntu, y'all might know him as Del Jones. He had a presentation, and he rest in peace. I share to him. But some of y'all may or may not have known that same festival. There was a behind the scenes rap session where Dr. Phil Valentine and Del Jones was having. They were just kind of rapping. You could say rapping because they was just spitting bars of knowledge, talking about current events, giving their take on that, and talking about like their upcoming and things they experienced in their earlier days. And there was so much wisdom and high frequency vibration. I really was like a fly in the wall. I just felt so privileged just to be in the moment to hear them brothers speaking. And then my brother had filmed it. And I'm glad he did because, of course, like I said, this was before, Brother Del Jones passed away. And maybe like a few years before he passed away. And this is like before people really, I don't know, I'm not going to say people didn't know about Baba Sanu, but, before he started to really become well known on the internet, I suppose. But just getting to see them, it was a privilege, pleasure to be in the presence of such wise men. And I saw Precise Science perform one of their first shows ever. And it was just it was a life-changing experience. I'll never forget it. And after that, they was working on the album. And I was just like, really in Rough Mike's ear because I was like, I want to get on there. So he was like, let me hear some of what you got. And I was writing raps, some of the stuff I had shared with him from when I was battling other artists on the online battle circuits. And I think he could kind of hear that, my skills are really starting to come together. It was really starting to take leaps and bounds from like the first time I started writing raps. So, it was a song on the album that they wanted to put together in tribute to Harriet Tubman. The conscious community in Baltimore, we call Baltimore Tubman City, which is where my slogan comes from. Tubman City, stand up. We created a song off of that for their first album, off the first Precise Science album. And Rough Mike said, "Hey, I want you on there." And this is when I was working at this vegan restaurant called the Yaba Pot. The sister that owns that restaurant, she lives in Puerto Rico now. Shout out to Sky Davis, Sister Sky. She also has, some vocal ability. So she was in there leaving vocals for the track. It was a community effort. That's what I like about the song because Rough Mike and his longtime partner production, Beat Monopolist. Shout out to Beat Monopolist. I know him. We know him around the way as brother Billy, Billy Rose. Him and Rough Mike collabed together to make the track for Tubman City, the production. That was a beautiful song because you got different instruments going on, flutes, keyboards, drums, bass. Came together really beautifully. And I just remember them kind of putting that beat together. Rough Mike wrote his rhymes to it. Um, Freedom Writer had written his verses to it. And Rough Mike was like, all right, I want you on this track. You know what I'm saying? I want you to write 2 verses for this track. 2 full-length 16s. I was like, let me at 'em. And those are some of my favorite verses. Like, I don't feel like they were my very best verses I wrote ever, but like 2 of my favorite works. And at the time, it was some of the best work I could offer. And y'all go listen to that. It's actually on YouTube. Go look up Precise Science on YouTube. Their first album's on there, and the track called Tubman features the F.L.O. Express. I still was kind of going by the name E hyphen, and then the Rough Mike was like, "We're gonna have to give you a more significant name than that." The F.L.O. Factual Libations Overstood. So that's also where my name change emerged. That's one of the first joints, one of the first official tracks that I recorded on, and I wasn't even too handy with ad libs then. I was just laying down leads. I wasn't too comfortable with adding all kind of stack vocals and ad libs. I was just like, let me just spit the bars and let them do the work. But it was just it was a great moment. I was just learning how to make beats. I didn't have anything for the album at the time because they kind of had their stuff together by then. But just to have the opportunity to get on there and have some bars on one of their tracks, because the album itself is a timeless classic. And when they started getting shows booked for shows, I'd have the opportunity to go with them, travel. We go to Delaware, we go to DC, we go to Philly, um, New York. And I'd have the opportunity to get on stage and just spit those 2 verses, if nothing else. And I'm standing next to legends, taking pictures and being able to hang out and just be a fly on the wall to be part of the moment and enjoy the experience. Just be in places that I probably would have never had been if not for my connection to these guys, and also for my gift and my passion for creating music. And it was just in its very early infant stages on a professional level, on a recording level. And that just kind of was like the first taste. And I wouldn't say the rest is his story or our story, but that's where it started. you know from being a young kid listening to music on the radio to you know borrowing CDs and tapes from my brother's collection, building one of my own. Thank goodness for streaming now, so you don't have to have a whole shelves of CDs taking up all that space in your apartment. You can just subscribe to something or download. Before there was streaming, there was downloading. So shout out to all of you who have like 500 gigabytes of classic albums downloaded on your hard drive or your computer. Um, I had quite a few, but my hard drive crashed, so now I have to just go with streaming. It's okay though. I know where to find the shit that I need. Most of it. Some of it, if you don't have the CD, you kind of missed out. But I know I definitely said a whole lot, and I went on for longer than I planned it to. But I wanted to give y'all an introduction, and we'll kind of pick up where we left off at next time I get on this thing. Hopefully, y'all heard me good, and I appreciate in advance for y'all listening. My name again is the F.L.O. Express, factual libations overstood, factual libations over expressions, expressions of self, or futuristic lyrical omniscience. I remixed it. But just the introduction to myself, and for those who have been listening to my work and who have been supporting the few hundred of y'all, where I appreciate y'all for tuning in, and hopefully this fills in some of the gaps as far as you know my origin story and how I got into music in the first place. And if you're first time listener, you don't know who I am, you might not have listened to a whole album or a whole project yet. Well, welcome. And I'll get into some of the goals that I have for the next several months this year, as far as material that I plan on releasing, and also being more active as far as creating content and videos, not just music videos, but also content as well. So this is something. It's just something that's just we're just starting. We really are just getting started in a lot of ways, and there's no shame in that, because we're not going to get where we're going until we get started. But I'm just letting you know we're started. Like we're in now. We kind of was in and out. A little wavering here and there in the past, but we're in now. So we're getting started with the full-time, full-fledged commitment to a journey in creating music and sharing musical expression with the world. And I do appreciate y'all for taking the time to listen and watch. So stay tuned. There will be much more coming. And we're just going to keep rocking this thing until the wheels fall off. And then put the wheels back together and keep rocking some more. So thank you. Peace. Good night. Hotep. Expressions of self.